Hi everyone, and welcome to the TL podcast. This is where you can learn, grow, and be inspired by some of the most influential leaders in their field. Because the first step to a better tomorrow is taking action today. I'm your host, Thomas and Manley, and thank you for tuning in. You have to learn to give first, and without a guarantee of getting anything back in return. I mean, that is hard in a small business.
It is, but you also reckon, you think about it, turn it around. How do you feel if somebody's really listening to you? How do you feel if somebody clearly cares about you?
Yeah, heard and care.
How do you feel if someone's investing their experience and time in you?
Yep.
You feel great.
Yep.
And as a result of that, if I get anyone listening to this to reflect on some of the best leaders they've had in their life, it's because the leader gave first. The leader cared about them, listened to them, respected them. He may well have told them off, may well have done stuff. They may well have had other brilliance around them. But the point is that the leader cared, actually gave monkeys for what your own career, your own path was. And I've been very lucky in my life that I've had quite a few people who've believed in me, and rightly or wrongly. And one of them was Chay Blythe in this race, because I was a skipper, but I'd never done anything like this before. And he said, actually, no, Manny, you're the person. And fundamentally changed my life to that one moment of belief.
Right.
And you think of the lives we could change if we start believing in people and encouraging them and helping them grow. And what I think, when we're sitting on the stoop, on the outside, as an old person with a blanket and our slippers and our cup of cocoa, we're looking back and reflecting on our life. Isn't it better to think, not what have I achieved, but look at all the people around me, what have they done? There's an amazing Australian palliative care nurse called Bronnie Ware. I'm not sure if you're aware of her, but she wrote a brilliant book and blog called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I use her stuff in my work, and I think what she's done is brilliant. And what she noticed was that no matter the age of the people who are dying or their social status, the conversations were the same around their regrets. And the first regret that always came up was, I wish I'd had the strength to live my own life. So put that in a leadership perspective. So as a leader, I want to lead a life of congruence. So I need to know who I am. And so compassion, I say, starts with you first. It starts at home, understanding with positive action. So I need to know who is Manley. What's important to Manley? What are his motivations? What does he prefer? What does he not like? What is there a sense of purpose in Manley in his life? What are his biases? What prejudices do I have? And can I challenge them? And then I want to be kind with that, because then I lead that life of congruence. And then what I want to make sure is that nobody who works with me ever thinks, oh, bloody hell, wish I'd never done that. Manley's a shambles. Oh, I really hated that. It's not about being liked. It's about understanding that you've helped other people grow. It's being deeply compassionate. And the challenge, the outcome, the goal for a compassionate leader isn't necessarily a self-centered one. It's around other people. But invariably, if you're helping all the people around you grow, you grow with them. And this is the point. It's such a beautiful concept in its own right. And my challenge to all leaders is think, well, what have I done which is compassionate? Not soft. It's not about being nice. It's not about being liked. If the right thing for me to do is say, no, that's not happening, then that's the compassionate thing to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to make some really tough decisions, knowing the other person, knowing what the best thing to do is, and then making it happen.
Wow.
If you are compassionate, you are also compelled to act.
Wow.
You can't walk past.
You wrote and spoke a lot about commitment, and there was 3 words, I think, true lifeline.
Yes, the true lifeline.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
I can, and it's fundamental to everything that we've spoken about so far, Thomas. And I do explain it in my book and also my online course on that malarkey, but I'll just go through it. It's on the premise of how we create who we are. So when we're born, 0 to 4, 4 to 8, and there's a little bit of teenage stuff, and off we go. So when we're born, if people here and listen to this have got young kids, there's not a great deal going on upstairs in a young kid. It's got a few instinctive patterns. It can recognize a happy face, a sad face, There's some genetic element in there. But an infant is making 6 million new connections in its head every waking second, which is why they sleep so much, because it's exhausting. And then what happens those first 4 years is that they are absorbing everything around them. They're listening, observing, feeling, touching, smelling, sensing, everything around them. And then in the period between 4 and 8 years old, and there's a beautiful innocence in children at that age, what they're doing with this information is working out how to use it, how to then deal with the world. And there was an old Jesuit saying, say, give me a child to the 7 and I'll give you the man, I'll give you the adult. And what it means is, actually, as you've got this 0 to 4, 4 to 8, you're refining your character. And around 8 years old, your ego is set. The basic Thomas is set around 8 years old. You can't fundamentally change the real character. Your ego is there, the sense of being, how you respond, how you make decisions. Are you sensing intuition? There's lots of psychology around that. So what should happen, you then go through life on this lifeline, I call it. There's a bit of malleability in teenage years as we're resetting our brain to take it from there. It's not an absolute straight line. It will wiggle and wave, but it won't fundamentally shift. But what happens is this. At 8 years old, a tragedy also unfolds because children lose their innocence of just being focused on themselves, and they suddenly realize they're being judged. And so now there's a consciousness thinking, what's expected of me? What does my parents expect? What do my friends expect? What does society, what does Facebook and social media expect? And rather than follow that lifeline, we get dragged from who we really are by the dominant cultures around us. Now, that's fine because we are a tribal animal. We want to be part of a group. But if that gap gets too far, the gap between who I am and actually how I'm operating gets too far, we now find ourselves in psychological conflict. And even a mid-age crisis is a classic example. People get to mid-age and they suddenly realize my own mortality. I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm going to grow my hair, get some tattoos, and get a Harley Davidson and whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or people have had a near-death experience and say, oh, I've fundamentally changed. You haven't fundamentally changed. What we find happens is, as people realize their mortality, they suddenly become conscious of that gap between who they are and what they're doing and how they're playing. What we want to create, and this is the point of compassionate leadership, isn't a point of crisis because you're drawn too far away from who you are. It's a point of awareness. So I'm aware of who I am, deeply aware of who I am, this line, the lifeline. I'm also aware of how I'm operating, how I'm being. And what I want to create is what I call a conscious compromise. Now, I can't just be the 8-year-old Manley because I have to work in a world which expects me to wear shoes and not just kick a ball around, but actually do something. What I need to be conscious of is that gap between my lifeline and how I'm operating. And it must be a comfortable gap. And they reckon psychologically, if there's a 2/3 overlap in sort of the value set, if you like, of who you are and how you're operating, that is a safe psychological space to be in. Now, this is the fundamentals of compassion, understanding yourself and being kind to yourself. I also believe that one of the problems we have in our society, the rage and the anger we see, the road rage, the social media trolling, is because we drag people away so far away from who they really are that we're permanently in psychological conflict. And if I'm in conflict, my motivation now is to protect myself. If I'm not in conflict, my motivation is connect, to grow. And that's the whole point of what we try as a human state. And so we need to make sure we create these moments of awareness and what I call a conscious compromise. It becomes such a powerful way of living. I live a life of congruence. I feel happy in who I am. I know my imperfections. I know I'm not perfect. I may look in the mirror in the morning and say, oh, I'm not bad for an old git, whatever it may be. But I also know my foibles. I know my weaknesses and I know my prejudices and my preferences. And I'm actually going to be kind to myself then. I'm going to be compassionate to myself. And I'm going to play with the awareness I have to make sure that I try and live that life of congruence. And that's step one of being a compassionate leader, is to look in the mirror, but be kind with what you see.
Wow. The reason I'm asking this is I've been trying to organize, to build an organization that shows compassion towards its employees. And instead of looking at how we fill our pockets, to set the level where we happy and then now maybe help other people fly. So I'm just trying to understand, From the way that you explain in your book and right now, am I correct to say that it is not possible to do true compassionate leadership unless you are on your true lifeline?
You'll be compromised yourself. And because if you're not on your true lifeline, and I see it in industry a great deal, I see business leaders who are very successful in the system we've created,
Yeah.
but they're actually deeply unhappy people. And so we get through the happiness by getting a larger car, a smarter watch, a bigger house, or a boat. But actually, that never makes you happy. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, sitting on top isn't a house or a car, it's you. It's a naked you sitting on top. So we have to be happy with who we are as a person. If you're sad poor, you're going to be sad rich.
Yep.
If you're happy poor, you'll be happy rich. So it makes no difference. And in my travels, I've been very lucky to go to many places all over the world. And some of the poorest communities I've met have frequently been some of the happiest, with a greater sense of community, greater sense of connection, greater sense of communication, because they're not wanting this material distraction. They're focusing on who they are as individuals. I'm not necessarily saying it's the state we need to be in, but I would say that if you aren't aware of who you are, then your ability to be compassionate, to relate to others is compromised. Even the basis like, I like beer and rugby. So, Thomas, to catch up after this call and to help motivate you, I'm going to take you to a rugby game and you're going to have 12 pints of beer. Now, it may be that you like hockey and wine. But the danger is we try to motivate other people as we motivate ourselves. We try to lead other people as we like to be led. We communicate to other people as we like to be communicated to. That's not the point. If I'm going to motivate you, I've actually got to understand you, which also means I've got to get my own biases out of the way. So if I'm deeply conscious that rugby and beer is my main motivator in life, I've got to be careful with my team that I don't just take them out to rugby games and get drunk on a load of beer. I've actually got to think, what is it my team needs?
That is good.
And my team may want to go, let's go 10-pin bowling. Let's go for a dinner. Yep. Let's do something different. So it has to start with you. So it does compromise you, to answer your question.
Now, let's go back on the boat. Was there a time when you felt like firing someone?
You know what? There Che Blythe, who's an amazing fellow, and I urge anybody listening to this, just research his life because he's extraordinary. He reminded the skippers, because he's the chap who organised the race, and he sailed around the world on his own non-stop, single-handed, the wrong way round. And it took him a few weeks even to learn how to sail after you set sail, because he just thought, I'm going to do it. The skippers are employed. So I was employed as a professional skipper on the boat. The crew volunteers have paid to be on board the boat. So they've given money to the organisation. And Che always reminded us, he said, right, team, skippers, just to let you know, I can fire you tomorrow. I can't fire the crew. So if you've got a problem with the crew, I've got a choice. Either you sort it out or you've got to go.
Wow.
And it was a lovely reminder that sometimes as a leader, when we're struggling with somebody, well, our tendency is, right, just pull the gun and get rid of them. But actually, this person could be giving you the best lesson in your life.
Yes.
This person actually, if you look at yourself and deeply what's happening, not about taking the monkey off their back, as I said, it's not about trying to solve their problems, but why is it I'm not liking that person? What is it about that person which is really annoying? And there's a lovely psychological ethos, which actually I struggle with myself, is that the reason why you find that person so annoying is because they're nearer to you than you think they are. And you think, what does that mean? Does that mean I don't like myself? Or it may mean that you see a challenge there. So were there times when members of my crew irritated me? Yeah, 100%. Were there times when I may have said to myself, oh, God, it's so much easier if they accidentally fell over the side? No, don't record that one. I never thought that. No, a sharp elbow, the problem solved. Yeah, there were times when I had tension. But what I encouraged myself to do was to look in the mirror and think, well, what is it about this person which I find deeply annoying?
Wow.
Is it actually me? And I learned some profound lessons in life that way, which I carry with me now. And even now in the work that I do, I work with some people, and some people I warm to and I connect, and it's great. And other people I'm really struggle with.
Right.
Rather than dismiss them, I'm thinking, why? Why am I struggling with that person? Is it me? Am I judging them? And invariably it is. It's your own subconscious judgments got in the way. Your own biases has got in the way. or that mirror element that's got in the way. So
You just you just defined the heart of compassionate leaders.
yeah, yeah,
Wow, that is so
yeah.
beautiful. So I was going to ask you about sales managers. Would you change them if they didn't do the job? But you just answered that question anyway. So was there a time during the race before the finish where you went, "That's it, I got this. I got this team now as one," or does it only happen when you cross the finish line?
No, it happens in the moment too, and there are also times in the moment where you think, "Oops, I didn't quite get that right." There's
Yeah.
one time when I did get it, and if I may finish, just a little story about a hurricane. This is a Hurricane Michael. So we're leaving Boston, we're heading south. Crew of 17 on board. 8 have never sailed before in their life. We'd done a couple of storms, but we hadn't done a hurricane. And as we were heading south, we had a warning telling us that a hurricane was forecast in our area. Now, I'm
Yep.
thinking hurricane's massive, right? So I do some research on the hurricane. 90-mile-an-hour winds, so that's 145-kilometer-an-hour winds. Now, they got the sea state, they called it phenomenal. And I'm thinking, I have no idea what phenomenal means as a sea state. It means you can get a 30-meter wave, which is fine, 100 foot and 100 foot, 30 meter, 30 meter. But a phenomenal wave has 10 meters on top, which is a breaking rolling crest. And so we're now approaching Hurricane Michael, and the hurricane is coming towards us at 30 miles an hour too. So and I'm thinking, right, what do we do here? Most important thing for me was that I didn't want my team to be afraid of Hurricane Michael. Because if you're afraid of something, then your brain changes. The blood leaves your thinking part, goes into your muscles, ready for fight, flight, or freeze. If you're afraid of something, your motivation is protection. You're afraid of something, your ability to relate and understand others is compromised. If you run away from something, it's in control and you're not. So I had to somehow get my team not to be afraid of Hurricane Michael. Now, there's a very beautiful, and I'll just very, very simply, I'm conscious of time and I'll call it's flown by, is that there's a lovely motivational theory called the 3 needs theory by a social scientist called Dave McClellan, which says we have a balance of 3 needs between achievement, affiliation, being part of a team, and influence, trying to learn or grow or change things. And I recognized that this happens, and it was a spread across my team. So I gathered my team and I briefed them about the hurricane. And they were then now white and unsure what to do, afraid of this hurricane. I said, look, team, we happen to be known. Our name as a team is Team Large. So I said, look, team, this is a large hurricane. Because it is, Skipper. I said, no, but what's our name? Team Large. Exactly. That's large. We're large. It's a marriage. And there was they weren't quite sure to start with. So I explained, look, team, the hurricane's here. We're up in this corner here. The wind's coming on the side of the boat. If we are disciplined and keep the wind at exactly the same angle on the boat, then as we approach the hurricane, we'll come in on the side of it. And if we come on the side, we're safe. It won't run over the top of us. And when the barometer drops a certain pressure, we'll tack out, we'll get a kick in the pants, and we'll come out in first place. So I spoke about first place. And the team, 1/3 of my team who wanted to win, saying, yeah, come on, Skipper, let's attack Hurricane Michael. 2/3 still unsure. So I changed my language and I spoke about the team. I spoke about the fact that if we attack the hurricane as a team, it makes us stronger as a team. And it actually was the professor with a strong need for affiliation who said, Skipper, you're right. I trust you, I trust the boat, but I love my team. I'll do anything with my team. And I think if we're in and out quicker, it's stronger for the team. So now 2/3 of my team, the achievers and the affiliators, were on board with attacking what is the largest energy system on the planet. But one small group was still unsure. They're the ones who had to have influence. So I said to this group, right, come with me. Let me explain everything about hurricanes. And I explained about the cross-section of hurricane, how it works. I showed them the track of every hurricane for the last 140 years and how it works. And I explained what we've got to do with the wind angle. And I said, you can be my storm attack team. You can influence the decision. You make the decisions of when we go in, when we come back out. I'm still the skipper, but you can help me in the journey. And because I use those 3 very distinct stories, 100% of my team said, all right, Skipper, we're on board. So we actually attacked Hurricane Michael. We didn't run away from it. We were being aggressive towards this massive, massive system. And I overheard in the middle of the night, it was with us about 30 hours, 2 of my crew saying, you know what, shipmate, I think if we pull this rope in harder, we can go faster. They're trying to go faster in a hurricane. They weren't afraid of it. And when the hurricane had gone and the dust had settled, the clouds had gone, we came out in first place. And I think the metaphor, the story for that for a business leader is that you've got many hurricanes on the horizon. Some are close, some are far away. Our world, the economic environment, the social environment, all the things that are going on are creating storms in our path. What we have to do as a leader is to attack each of those storms with a positive optimism, but use the right language to bring all our people with us. And if we can help our people embrace a storm and turn a threat into an opportunity, that takes compassion to do that.
And hence, communication is one of the last chapters in your compassionate book.
Yes,
I get that. So you're actually a doctor in communication. You know, words sometimes are used in a free manner and often to convey frustrations when it should really be convey inspiration, right? So I can see it in you. I always we come to 1 hour now, and I think that there's going to be many more hours because and I can see you we don't know each other, and I was very impressed until I read about you, and I went, hold on, this man doesn't need me. He's got way more than this. But I think that shows your true character in terms of compassion. What I usually end the podcast with is always asking people how do they know they're leading an inspired life? I may get the wrong answer, but I believe that you got that many times already in seeing what people become. It's probably giving you the most inspiration. There is a bigger question I want to ask you is,
yeah,
I feel that there's some mini Dalai Lama's knowledge into you. So I want to ask you, what is it that ignited your love for compassion? Was it the race or something way before the race?
It was before the race, and but saying that, I wasn't conscious, if you like, of compassion as the word, as the concept itself.
Yes.
It was only after when analyze what had happened, what you're doing, and I'm now speaking. I'm in leadership space. I'm talking to business leaders that I'm doing a lot of research around the principle of commitment. Actually,
Right.
Where does commitment come from? And it's through that research I stumbled across the work of the Dalai Lama, who I find deeply inspiring. And also, there's a lot of confusion on what the word compassion means. I do not believe it's around suffering. It's not around vulnerability. It's not around trauma. Yes, it's useful there, but it's not about that.
No.
It's a hugely positive construct based on understanding and then positive action. And I guess in my life, I was in the Navy, and we have a perception that military leadership is all about screaming and shouting. It's not. The most deeply compassionate leaders I've come across have been senior naval leaders who really, really look after the team. Right. Even Nelson, 250 years ago, the biggest difference between him and other leaders was he cared about the sailors. He even made sure that there was fresh fruit on board. He bought himself to look after the sailors. So the compassionate leadership concept is not a new one, though it wasn't written about specifically in those words. And so all my life, I always inspired by the work, by the journeys of Scott and Shackleton and Amundsen. And even within those people there's deep traits of compassion. Yeah. When you hear their own writing about what it is they're trying to do with and for their people, right. It's just, I find it inspiring. So it's everywhere around us. And I think we're born with the ability to be deeply compassionate. I think it's all within us, but I think it gets beaten out of us by the system that we've created, which says, I need to win. I need to grow more. I must earn more money. I must have a bigger house. I must succeed at other people's expense. And I think the important thing is just reflect to recognize, actually, no, it's in our control, all this. A long time ago, when I was a small lad, my mother said that I was a lively child, which I think is a euphemism for being a bit of a pain. And I was doing something annoying her, and she wanted to just give me a smack round the head to say stop, but she didn't. She said, no, Manley, I think it was about 5 or 6.
Right.
If you carry on doing what you're doing, you've got to accept the consequences of your actions and redeem the situation. And I didn't understand what that meant, but later she explained, what I mean is, Manley, you made a choice to do something. So don't blame other people if it goes wrong. Accept the fact that you made that choice. And if that choice is successful, great. But if that choice has got you in trouble, you have to get yourself out. And what I heard her say was, Manley, do anything you want to in the world. Go out there, but make sure that you are, if you like, responsible for your own decisions. And you always take it with a positive slant to move it in a forward way. And I just heard that as a young lad. And I guess that's how I've tried to live my life, really.
Wow.
Not blaming anybody else. I've made many poor decisions, But I think I made a few good ones too.
And you're a big giver. I noticed that. That is amazing. So for you,
to give, you also, I give by definition, you take, because I give, then I take joy. And there's if I might, I'm conscious of time, one really small little lesson outside of me. Again, it was from my mother.
Yes.
At one stage, and I was away in the world as you are as a child, and you forget about your parents, and she was on her own and wasn't particularly wealthy at the time and was struggling. And for her, church is really important. And she had some friends who were very generous. So every time they'd come round for my mum's for a cup of tea, they'd bring cake or they'd bring things. And she struggled to accept gifts.
Yes.
And so she's talking to the vicar, to the padre, and saying, look, I'm struggling to take this from my friends. And the vicar said, Jane, was my mum's name, how do you feel when you give something to somebody? And she says, well, I love it. I feel really, really fantastic. She says, so think about the pleasure you're giving other people. If we're going to give other people pleasure, we have to accept them to give too. When somebody wants to give to you, don't say no. Don't say, no, it's okay, I'm fine, thanks. Say yes. Say, yes, thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate that, because then you're giving other people the joy of giving.
Thanks for listening to the TL podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and want more inspiration like this, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.